Discover Church, it is good to have you guys here. You look good. All of you except for one person just look so good. I'm not going to tell you which one, but you can look around. It is so great to have you guys. I'm excited for church this morning as we continue our series that we started last week called Inadequate. And this series is meant to make you feel really good about yourself because you're not good enough. That's the whole idea of this whole series, and so I hope you enjoy it. Today's message is really simple because it's basically about how you're never going to, you can't please everyone. You just can't. No matter what you do, you can't please everyone. I remember in the early days of COVID, and COVID was really a strange time for everybody. But I can tell you as a pastor, it was particularly strange because you walked this fine line of like, okay, are we keeping people safe? Do we trust in God? Where's our faith? And everybody had their own opinions. And we at the time, we rented our building at the time was, we rented in a building where we had taken over doctor's offices and converted them into a church. And 1/3 of the building was still medical. It was still doctors. And so I was super nervous, like, what do we do? And I talked with the doctors there. They wanted us to wait as long as we could. And so churches started, and we were doing online church just like everybody was. And, COVID happened and every pastor became a televangelist. We all became good at it and we learned all that stuff. And that's great. I have no problem with that. But I remember I waited longer than most churches in the area. Just because I was nervous, but we had so many people that wanted us to come back to in-person meetings. So I decided, I went to our team and I said, hey guys, what we're going to do is we're going to offer in-person meetings. We'll have masks, we'll have hand sanitizer or whatever, and the stuff they told us to have. We'll have that there, and you can get that on your way in. But we'll continue to do online just like we have been. So if you want to just stay home, go right ahead. Praise God. That's awesome. But if you want to come in person, you are more than welcome to. And I announced it. I made this big announcement online about it. And within 10 minutes, I had 2 families quit the church. Within 10 minutes, I had a family call me and say, you're evil. You want to kill the children of God, bringing people back to church. Now, you got to understand, this was about 6 months in, and I understand that countrywide, the country was still in the reels of COVID, but in Florida, it had been normal for about 5 months and 3 weeks. 6 months in, we were pretty normal pretty quickly, but I had been really careful, and they were like, you want to kill us? You're a murderer? You're sinful as a pastor. And they, just ripped into me. And I remember I hung up the phone and I was like, oh, I just felt like, what did I do? And as I'm wallowing, I get another phone call. Pastor, we are never coming back to this church. Well, and I'm like, I'm going, oh man, I made a mistake. And he goes, you waited too long to bring us back because you did not have the faith. I was like, okay, I can't win no matter what I do. So I had a family quit because I brought us back too soon. Another one quit because I waited too long. And that was the moment when my life changed as a pastor. And I went, okay, God, I'm not listening to the church anymore. I listen to you guys, but I'm letting you lead us completely. And because I can't please everyone. You can't do it. And some of you are here today and you see this message and you're like, oh yeah, this is my kind of message. I don't like pleasing people. Some of you are in here and you're like, that's right. I like. Some of you are like the kick the hornet's nest kind of people. You're like, yeah, I like to stir it up a little bit. And some of you are totally wrapped up in trying to please people. And I want to explain how you are inadequate to do that. And not just inadequate, you aren't meant to do that. Becoming obsessed with what people think about you is the absolutely quickest way to forget what God thinks about you. When you are obsessed with what other people are thinking, you are not thinking about what God is thinking for you. You're worried about them. You're concerned with their thoughts, with their opinions, and all of a sudden God's opinions become secondary. And today we're going to deal with the truth that I believe most of us know intellectually. Most of us understand this in our head, but I believe very, very few of us live it out practically. We don't practically live this truth. And that truth is that no matter how hard you try, You will never be able to please everyone. Last week I told you how you will never be good enough to live up to what God offers. And this week I'm telling you, you will never be good enough to make other people happy. Am I making you feel good coming to Discover Church? Everybody's going to hate you. Nobody's going to like you. You're terrible. Praise God. That's not what I'm saying. But I want you to understand today is that you will never be good enough to please everyone. You can't. You can't. So you may say, well, I can't please everyone, so I better work really hard to please as many people as I can. And that's where I think a lot of us live. I can't please everyone, but I'm going to try and please as many people as I can. And if there's somebody who's upset, at least most people are pleased with me. Or maybe you might be like, I believe more and more people are turning, which is, I know I can't please everyone, so here's these certain few people. Here's my wife, my husband, my kids, my parents, my boss. Here's these certain few people, and I'm going to devote my entire life into pleasing them. Who cares what other people think? Because if they're not happy, then I'm a total failure, and that's where our mindsets are. Dads, as we come up on Father's Day, this is a mindset that is pervasive in fathers. Everybody else can be mad at me, but as long as my kids are good with me, then I'm not a failure. I'm here to tell you right now that has zero to do with your failure-win ratios. The truth is that you aren't designed to please all people. So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to say this with me. Say, I can't please everyone. Now come on, say it. I can't please everyone, but I can please God. But I can please God. I talked in the very first week of our church when we moved into this building. I did a message called Audience of One. And the idea of that message, it's one of my favorite messages to do because it talks about how as Christians, our life is called to be living for an audience of one, not an audience of the world, but an audience of one, of Jesus at the right hand of God. And so we listen, as we jump in, last week I talked about how Paul, remember we talked about Paul was so great. He was like the greatest of the great. You know, he was circumcised at 8 days old, meaning he never had a chance to be unrighteous. He followed every law of the Pharisees. We followed 10 commandments. The Pharisees followed 613. And he never failed at any of them. This guy was good. That's what we talked about last week. But last week he said, look at all these things. I have every right to act like I'm the best, but I'm still a failure. I can never live up to what God has done. That's what he said. So Paul is talking in the book of Galatians. He's writing to Galatia and he says this, that people they didn't know what it took to be right with God. The church in Galatia had no idea what it meant to be right with God. They were confused. And there are a lot of you here today that might be that way. You're confused. Well, okay, what does it take to be right with God? Because one part of the Bible says that it is by grace, not works. And then you read the book of James and you get really confused. You're like, wait a minute, that one just says it's all works. They're not contradicting. They're supporting each other. And so it becomes confusing. And so to us it's confusing. And we get the added benefit of watching podcasts and reading commentaries, and we have the whole Bible in our hands. Most of us have multiple versions of it, and we have it on our phone that has about 400 versions on there. Galatia didn't have that. There was no such thing as the New Testament. There was a letter that Paul wrote. To them, it wasn't a book of the Bible. It was a correspondence. And they're confused. They don't understand what's going on. And so they're like, okay, well, to be right with God, to be saved, okay, the Bible, it shows us in the Old Testament you have to be circumcised. So that's what we have to be. And then somebody else is like, no, it can't just be that. You have to obey the whole law. Well, okay, is the law of the 10 commandments? Is it the 613? Which one what are we supposed to follow? Somebody else is like, no, you have to do both. Then there's somebody else going, no. Jesus came to fulfill the law. You have to do neither. And they were confused. And so Paul came in to straighten it out. He came in and goes, I'm going to fix this. I want you guys to understand what's going on. And he comes in to tell them the truth, that the only way that you're made right with God is by faith in Jesus. In that faith in Jesus alone are you made right. Has nothing to do with your circumcision or following the law. Paul comes in and he starts preaching this very bold message. And this big group of people get angry with him. And in that moment, Paul was the guy who started this church. But overnight, his approval rating plummeted. It plummeted. Preaching this bold message. And Paul knew that it was an election year for the apostles, and so he changed his message overnight. No, he didn't. He didn't do that. Instead, he continued preaching this bold message. A lot of us do that. When we preach a bold message for Jesus, when we finally get the guts to do what God's calling us to do, and our approval rating drops, and we go, I'm going to take a step back here, and I'm going to come at it from this angle over here, which is a non-bold message. They heard me say that before, and we just go, that's good. And we change who we are and what God has called us to do so that we can find the approval of people. But that's not what Paul did. He just kept preaching the same message. Listen to this, Galatians chapter 1, verse 10. Obviously, I'm not trying to be a people pleaser. I love the New Living Translation of this. I am not trying to be a people pleaser. No, I am trying to please God. If I were still trying to please you people, I wouldn't be his servant anymore. I couldn't be his servant anymore if I was trying to please you people, because pleasing you people is impossible. I remember getting off that second phone call and hanging up and going, it is impossible to make these people happy. So God, I want to make you happy. I'm going to do what you asked me to do. And just believe that people are going to come alongside and see that what we're doing is what you're calling us to do. Becoming obsessed with what people think is the fastest way to forget about what God thinks. Because you become focused on things that don't matter to him. They just don't. And here's the thing. They're not all bad. I'm not saying they're bad things. Hear me, people. I'm not. I'll have people, plenty of people over the years come up to me, hey, Pastor Johnny, we need to really dive in, do like 6 months talking about the end times. No, we don't. I want to talk about people getting saved. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with talking about that, but I'm not here for your approval. I'm here to see people come to know Jesus. That's my goal. Pastor Johnny, I want you to tell us your opinion on this. No, I don't want to do that. My opinion is irrelevant. I want to tell you God's opinion on it. I want to share God's thought process on what he wants you to do, on where he wants us to be, on what he wants us to focus on. Come on, say it again. I can't please everyone, but I can please God. You guys, come on. I know it's summer, but you got to get a little energy in there. Come on. Are you driven? Like, have you been in too many seasons in your life where you've been concerned with what people think? I want to unpack this a little bit and talk about the characteristics of being a people pleaser. Because there are some characteristics that we all have. If you are somebody who likes to please people, the first one, and here's, I want you to hear this today. I'm preaching to myself. This is something that I struggle with. And all four of these things are things that at different times in my life I've been struggling with. If you're a people pleaser, then you take criticism super personal. You take your criticisms personal. If you're a people pleaser, then you have this extraordinary fear of being rejected all the time. You're terrified of it. When you try to please people, you are always scared to express how you truly feel, because if you express how you truly feel and they disagree, then do I change the way I feel? We all of a sudden we go, I have a hard time expressing my feelings. And it's not that you have a hard time expressing your feelings, but you don't want to express them because expressing them may make you unpleasant to people. If you're a people pleaser, you have a hard time saying no. You end up saying yes to everybody for everything. And sometimes that's okay, but sometimes you say yes to things you shouldn't say yes to. There was a book that came out a while back from Harriet Breaker that was called The Disease to Please. And I want to give you some facts that she talks about in there, but really I believe are true facts about when we focus on pleasing people instead of pleasing God, what does it mean spiritually? We know we can't please everyone. We know that. There are trolls and haters, and people are going to do what they do. But what happens spiritually when we live a life of a people pleaser? Well, the first thing is this: is that when you're a people pleaser, that's a form of idolatry. This isn't me just like, oh, you shouldn't people please. This is spiritual. This is deeply spiritual. When you live a life that is attempting to please people, you've made people an idol in your life. You have placed those people above God. It makes sense in your head when I break it down like that, and you go, well, I'm just trying to make people happy. No, you've made them an idol. I'm not saying that you should aim to make people unhappy. That should not be your goal. But people pleasing, when that is your focus, it is idol worship. Listen to what it says in John 12. But because of the Pharisees, they would not confess their faith for fear they would be put out of the synagogues. For they loved praise from men more than praise from God. They were so scared of making the wrong person unhappy that they wouldn't share their faith. People pleasing is idolatry. I remember this happened with me. I was trying to please kids in the neighborhood. I was probably 8 or 9, and I was riding bikes with all my friends around the neighborhood, and I was probably 8 miles from my house. My parents didn't care where I went. They didn't really love me that much. And what I did, what any 8 or 9-year-old would do when he's riding his bikes with his friends, like we snuck onto like a construction site, and I found these cans of spray paint, and we were like, this is awesome. And so I decided to spray paint my bike. The only color they had was pink, and not hot pink, like baby pink. Like, oh, look, you're having a girl. It's a great onesie, that color pink. And I spray painted my bike pink. And I didn't even do a good job of spray painting. Like, it was really blotchy and everything like that. And I was like, and the guys were like, that's awesome. Oh, that's great. And I rode home. And as I was riding home, I went, oh, why did I do that? I had this cool, like, blue and silver bike. And so for the next, 3 years, I rode around this pink bike. Because I placed what they thought of me above what was the right thing for me to do. When you try to please people, you fall into these traps over and over again, these people-pleasing traps. And I believe there's a verse in Proverbs that really lays out 3 different ways that we try and please people, these traps that happen. It's from Proverbs 29:25. It says, fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Fear of men is a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord will be kept safe. The word snare right there was mokashi, which meant a noose. And if you look at what the biblical meaning of that, it was almost not just a normal noose, but it was a hook in the nose. I don't know if you guys remember, like you see like those old pictures and drawings, and, like the cow has the big ring in his nose. And that's really what it's talking about. I was 16 or 17. I went to a music festival. And we like camping out, a bunch of buddies. And there's like 20,000 people at this music festival. And we're all camping out. And there's a girl that's there. And she was we had a group. We had probably like 10 tents. And like we had the guy side of the camp, the girl side. And there was a girl there that I had a crush on. And she had her septum pierced. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And so I was like, I'm going to do it too. And so I got this big safety pin. And I went in my tent. Yeah, 16-year-old boys are stupid. Oh, it hurt. It was one of those baby. It was a baby pin that was attached to my backpack, and it was one of those big giant ones with the yellow plastic ends, like an actual diaper pin, like those big ones. And that's all I had. And so I had a nose ring that a buddy gave me. I'm like, okay, I'll put that. And I sat there. It took every ounce of pressure I had, and it goes. And I remember the sound that, it was like, and my buddy's like, awesome, pull it out and put the ring. I go, no, I'm good. And I just closed it and left this giant thing in my nose. You can quit laughing at me. Oh, it hurt. It's so painful in this little thing. And that's really what he's talking about right there. That the fear of man becomes this little thing that is super painful and will lead you around. Anybody that wanted to could have made me do whatever they wanted if they just grabbed that thing. There's nothing I'll do whatever you want, let go of that thing. It hurt so bad. I don't know, because I was 16. And I thought she would think it was cool. No, she did not. Hey, will you do this thing for me, even though you don't want to? Yeah, sure, to make them happy. And all of a sudden, you're being led around. Hey, can you come on over? And, yeah, well. I know you're a Christian, but will you compromise your values for me? Now, nobody says it that way, but they definitely ask you to do it. And you get dragged around. And you get dragged into places and things that you shouldn't be. And all of a sudden, you're worshiping the idol of what people think instead of the God that you say you serve. There's these people-pleasing traps, the I will compromise for you trap. You go too far in the wrong direction. You laugh at the wrong joke. You spend time with the wrong people. You spend money that you don't have. There's the I will overcommit for you trap. How overcommitted, and this one's a big one for you. How overcommitted are you today? How overstretched, how under-resourced are you? Some of you are so overcommitted and under-resourced in your life that you have hardly any time for God. Oh, I love God with all my heart. What, did you have a prayer time? Well, I've just been so busy. And you're placing God below what these people think. Some of you have so little time for God, let alone family, because you're living based on everyone else's expectations of you. I'm going to be talking about that next week. And there's another one here that we see, these traps, is that I'm going to let you limit my success trap. The more you do and the higher you rise for God, the more people won't like you. I've talked about this a lot the last couple months. So many people stop doing the right thing because of the opinion of others. We just stop doing it. The thing is that the world is going to misunderstand you. I want you to hear me right now, Christian. The world is going to misunderstand you. They're going to criticize you. And you just have to understand that that's part of the territory when you're living for the love and approval of God instead of the love and approval of man. Man's not going to always like you. Sometimes they will completely hate you. Because you're not doing anything for their approval. You're not doing the things that make them happy. My goal isn't to make you happy. My goal is to make God happy. And what makes him happy? When I introduce him to more of you guys. If you let the opinions of people drive you, I believe that it puts a ceiling on your success as a Christian. The more and more you let people's opinion drive what you do, you are lowering the ceiling on the possibility of what God can do in your life. Now, I'm not telling you that pleasing people is always a bad thing. I'm not saying that you should aim to not please people. Can I tell you, as a church, we do things to please people. I want people to come. When people come to our church, I want them to feel comfortable. So we have good coffee. We have people greeting and saying hi and welcome, we love you. We have signs everywhere. And it's not fun to put all that together every week. But the goal is to make people that are far from God feel comfortable enough to walk in here and go, okay, God, I'm going to give you a chance. We have people every Sunday morning we come in here to set up. Every single week we show up and we're getting things set up. Can I tell you right now, that is not about pleasing people. There's nothing fun about that. That is purely about pleasing God. Going, God, I'm going to do what you've called me to do. I'm going to make this place a comfortable place. I'm going to make this place a welcoming place. I mean, you can look at the boot on Pastor Jeff's foot and you can see that wasn't to try and make people happy. That was to try and make God happy. The cool thing is that in this moment, I believe that God wants to make new people happy when they come here, to feel comfortable. But that's not our goal. Our goal is to see people come to know him. The more and more you try to please people, the lower that ceiling gets on what is it possible in your walk with Christ. And it's a common trap. What is it? It's simple. It's what I said earlier. It's idolatry. It's sacrificing the values of God or the call on your life for the opinions and the approval of people. So what's the answer? That's an easy answer, Pastor Johnny. Well, it may be. This right here, what I'm talking about today, is not a fix it and forget about it kind of scenario. Especially in the world we live in today. This is an ongoing issue. This is something that you will struggle with the rest of your life. Trying to please people instead of God. Now, that's not the way you're thinking about it, but you sacrifice God to please people. As a pastor, I want to serve you. I just do. I want you to like me. I don't want hateful emails or nasty phone calls. Just don't. I don't like it when I get yelled at. I want to be liked. But the only way that I can effectively do what God has called me to do is to not live to please you guys, but instead live to please God. Here's the answer I want you to get. And if you're taking notes, write it down. If you aren't taking notes, take a picture of the screen, because you need to remember this. The fear of God is the very best antidote for the fear of people. The word fear is not like being scared. It's living in awe. It's reverence. The reverence of God is the best antidote for having reverence for people. That God has this simple thing for you. It's that simple. It is. This statement can absolutely and completely be life-changing if you take it to heart today. If you tell me you're a people pleaser, then I'm going to tell you that people are too big in your life and God is too small. Oh, I'm just a people pleaser. No, I understand what you're saying. And I'm not saying you're evil. But God's too small in your life if whenever you describe yourself, the first thing you say is, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a God pleaser. That's my goal. If people get pleased beyond that, that's a bonus. And we've talked about it over the last few weeks. If I'm doing what God called me to do, then I'm probably going to not be pleasing some people. Blessed are those who persecuted for righteousness' sake. When I'm righteous, I will be persecuted. People will not like me. Why? Because I'm not pleasing them, I'm pleasing God. Psalm 34:9. Let the Lord's people show him reverence. For those who honor him, I love this, they will have all they need. Church, I want you to hear me right now. I want to live for God, so your opinion will not slow me down on this. If you want to do something, if you want me as a pastor to do something that I know is not from God, God is so big, God is so close, I'm not going to let you deter me. This is where your mind needs to be. When that person asks you to do that thing at work that you know you shouldn't do. When that relationship tends to go too far. When you give in to demands that you know you shouldn't. Whenever you do things that are the opposite of what God is calling you to do because you're trying to make somebody happy. I believe, church, God is calling you not to make people happy, but to take steps of faith towards Him. To say, I will obey you, God. Even if people don't like it. I mean, all the disciples were martyred for what they did. I'm sure they didn't look forward to that. I'm sure it wasn't comfortable. But they put God's opinion first. Praise God, we live in a day and age where in America, martyrdom is not something that's really on the table for us. It is in other places on the planet right now. People are being killed for their beliefs in Jesus right now. In the last few weeks, I can go through news story after news story. All these places around the world, in Syria, over 70, in the Congo, over 300, killed for being Christians specifically, just in the last few weeks. And we have a hard time doing what God called us to do because we're trying to make somebody happy. And they're sitting there going, cut my head off. I don't care. I love Jesus. That should inspire you to do what God has called you to do. To quit worrying about what other people think. You are inadequate. You will never make everybody happy. So why don't you try and make the audience of one, make God happy. And let's change the world together. Amen.